North Pole, Canada, America, Mexico, into the south of America South. As you dive deep into there, you're going for the North Pole, the South Pole, sorry.
Yeah.
And time's running out, and you've got people there, people are helping you out. You got your brother, Katie, everyone's there trying to get you to the point, because there's one flight that you can get out of the South Pole. Things change for you, right?
Yeah.
And it gets super difficult to be able to get to a point where you, and as you say in the book, I don't want to take a back step. But in this moment, you're taking a back step. You've just run 2/3 to 3/4 of the world, right? And it struck me that as you take off to do your South Pole thing, that you still have 2,000 kilometers to do when you return back from the South Pole.
Yeah.
For me, it's really special. Tell me about when you land in the South Pole and you go, I've got to do this, and then I've got to go back and finish to be completely done. And then someone goes, you should have a crack at the record while you're down here. Tell me about all of those emotions as you're entering the last bit of the top to bottom.
Yeah, well, it's like the job's not over until it's done.
Yeah.
So my job was to run from one end of the earth through to the other continuously. And so there's so many factors that are out of my control that you can't account for at the time, and then you just have to deal with them in the moment. And so one of the factors was that there's this very small window of time that you're allowed into the South Pole region, and that ends on the 26th of January, Australia Day. If you can't make it to the South Pole on that day, there is no flights going out of there after that. And so if they don't think that you can get down there on time, you can't go. So I had to make a very strong decision, and that was that, and the other side of the coin is, no use getting Ushuaia saying I'm running from North Pole to South Pole, and get to Ushuaia and say, oh, well, I got down to the bottom of the Americas, but I couldn't get to America because South Pole, because they wouldn't fly me across. I had to make this very strong decision with my crew that I would go do the South Pole, shoot across to there, and it had to be less. It had to be an 8-hour flight or less. So it had to be a point where I could get an 8-hour flight, so that it wasn't a 24-hour period, because I was running continuously every day, no days off.
Right.
So I had to pick a point that I could get to that was near an airport that would fly me to Ushuaia, the Russians could take me to Antarctica, get me there. I get straight off the plane, run to Union Glacier, and then off the plane, then from Union Glacier, hook around to Hercules Inlet, which is down near the sea, where the ice shelf is. So then officially I'm on the water, and then I'm going into the South Pole from there. So there's all these little technicalities that I'm trying to do, which are only technicalities in my head, because at the end of the day, there wasn't a record. Nobody had ever done this before anyway. So, but mentally, I had this idea. I had to go from the edge of the ice to there. So I often added on extra distances and did extra silly things because I felt in my head that I had to. But anyway, so that was it. But because of that, I couldn't really enjoy the moment of getting to the South Pole, because I still had to finish the bit into Ushuaia in Argentina.
Right.
So I still had to get into that point, that which was the bottom of the landmass of the Americas. And so it was just another day at work. As far as, and all I could think about was, will I make the plane to get back out of there to get this job done? And so it's a bit of a shame because the whole thing has been like that, or the whole thing was get the job done. There was no celebrations. Like the celebration for me, I remember Katie, my niece, who was also my crew manager and everything.
She was huge in it.
She was everything.
Yeah.
She was everything, trainer, everything for me. So I remember putting my arm around Katie and her leading me in from Ushuaia into this hotel, this very cheap hotel room where I was staying. And there was a hot shower. And she said, now you can celebrate. And she turned on the hot water and I sat down on the floor of the shower and I just cried in my eyes. And the hot water flowed over me and it was like, it's done. It's done. It's finally done.
10 months of
Finally done.
utter suffering.
Yeah.
Not just running, but all the other things we talked about. It is inspirational, mate. And as you know, I read the book and then tried to understand what you did every day. It gave me I felt patriotic, actually. I was like, how good to be an Aussie when an Aussie's gone and done that, right? Right. And you should be proud. I know you are, but you should be proud of that. And I've heard you referred to many times as a great Australian, and they were bloody right. You know, it turns out they were right. And I, that you can do the things you do physically, that you do the things that you do for others. You've raised millions and millions and millions of dollars for others during your running career, which is aspirational and something to be proud of. I just thank you for putting yourself out there, mate. You inspire people both on the run of when you did it and to bald fat blokes right now, right? In the fact that you would put yourself out there for something you didn't know you could achieve, did it, and then warmed the hearts of really people all over the world that were following along. It's fucking amazing.
Well, that's nice of you to say, but let me say one thing about that, and it's this, that if one person, one human being can literally use just their human energy, their human body to go from one end of the world through to the other without a day off. If one human being can do that, then the world is not that big a place after all. And if you start to think about it like that, then the things we do here in Australia do affect the rest of the world, and the things that are happening in the rest of the world do affect us. So instead of us cocooning ourselves and thinking that's somebody else's problem, I'm all right, I'm living on the nice sunny beach here and everything's good for me. They should start and think about, well, what is really happening in the rest of the world and how can I play my role in that as well?
Yeah.
You know, and how can I support these people? Because at the end of the day, like I said, nobody picks where they're born. Some are lucky. They're born in a good country in a lucky place. And some are not. But they didn't choose either way. You know, they're just born. They're there and they got to make the most of their circumstances. So for the ones that are fortunate, we should reflect on that. We should do something to support them.